Edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, 250 plus markets across the United States of America. Check your AM, FM dial nearest you, plus ESPN Radio and Sirius XM, Channel 80, plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Credit Karma. Get your truly free credit scores and free credit monitoring from Credit Karma today. That's Credit Karma, K-A-R-M-A. Get knowing. Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. Lots of stuff going on later on in the show in regards to the great Jerry West. I've got a correction that I want to make sure I make because we know how I feel about Jerry West. And if he's got some disagreement with something that I said, damn it, he's E.F. Hutton. I'm going to listen, okay? So I want to make sure that I make a correction in regard to something that I said about him just a couple of days ago. But before I even get into all of that, I want to talk about what transpired last night because obviously the biggest story going on is LeBron James. And it's got residual impact from New York to L.A. and every place in between, okay? Here's what you have going on. LeBron James, one of the greatest players in the world, destined to be on the Mount Rushmore of basketball annals. LeBron James passed Michael Jordan last night to become fourth on the all-time NBA scoring list. Only 3 people remain to eclipse: Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Karl Malone, Kobe Bryant. Will he pass Kobe? Possibly. He ain't catching Jabbar and Kareem in my estimation. I don't know about that. That's just me. I mean, anything's possible, I guess. But when I look at LeBron James, I don't know if he'll end up as number 2 on the NBA's all-time scoring list. I simply don't know if that will happen. Because you're talking about him averaging 27 points a game this year. He's a career 27.2 point per game scorer. This is a guy, when you look at him and what he brings to the table this year, this season, he has scored 1,273 points in 47 games. Last year, he played all 82 games. He scored 2,251 points. The previous 2 seasons, when he played 74 and 76 games respectively, 76 and 74 respectively, he scored over 1,900 points a game. So he'll probably catch Kobe. Whether he'll catch Karl Malone, possible. Remains to be seen, though. Is he going to catch Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? Doubt it. But who knows? Who knows? Either way you slice it, it was an incredibly surreal moment for LeBron James. You could tell he was a bit emotional about it. The crowd, minutes removed from booing him because he missed his first 4 free throws, ended up giving him a standing ovation. I know because I was there, and I was one of the people standing up and giving him a standing ovation. And the reason why I was giving him a standing ovation, ladies and gentlemen, because it doesn't matter how critical you have to be about little remnants of what takes place and what goes on over the course of somebody's career. At the end of the day, it has been an absolute honor and privilege to watch and to cover LeBron James play the game of basketball. And I'm going to be one of millions who truly, truly misses him when he is gone. He deserves to be praised. It was beautiful to see his lovely wife, Savannah, in attendance. And this was LeBron James afterwards speaking about eclipsing Michael Jordan for 4th place on the all-time scoring list in NBA history. Here is LeBron James.
For a kid from Akron, Ohio that needed inspiration and needed some type of positive influence, MJ was that guy for me. I watched him from afar, wanted to be like MJ, wanted to shoot fadeaways like MJ. Wanted to stick my tongue out on dunks like MJ. Wanted to wear my sneakers like MJ. I wanted kids to look up to me at some point like MJ, and it's crazy, to be honest. It's beyond crazy.
Let me say something. You know, when you hear those words coming out of LeBron James' mouth, it kind of moves you, particularly if you're a member of the minority community, because you hear exactly where he's coming from. And for those of you who don't understand, allow me to explain. You grow up in the streets of Akron, Ohio. As he once articulated, when you look at the city of Cleveland, they didn't look fondly upon Akron, Ohio. So if you were from Akron, Ohio, you weren't in love with Cleveland by a long shot. You felt disenfranchised. You felt minimized. You felt cast aside. So that affinity for Cleveland that he grew to have as a player, ladies and gentlemen, essentially the only reason he felt that way is because it was near Akron, Ohio. If Akron had had a professional basketball team, LeBron wouldn't have had any attachment to Cleveland. Because that's how he felt about the city growing up as a kid. But ultimately, a love affair ensued. He spent the first 7 years of his career there. He became a free agent, went to Miami for 4 years, and just felt this itch, this ache to come back and deliver a championship. Because to him, that's what everything was all about. And what he talked about when he was talking about Michael Jordan and what an inspiration he was, let me tell you why. Michael Jordan, if y'all remember, you young whippersnappers out there, breath smelling like Similac, wet behind the ears, don't know any damn thing because you're puppies in life. You might not remember this, but long before Michael Jordan had those fly suits looking like he's straight out of GQ, even though Kobe's the one that will remind you he was the professional athlete that was on the cover of GQ twice. The one thing that's incredibly important to remember is that before all of that happened, Michael Jordan used to wear warm-up suits with gold chains around his neck. Michael Jordan looked like a little hood rat. Y'all forgot that or didn't know that. But Michael Jordan matriculated to different times. He ultimately evolved and grew and matured. And when that happened, he became more polished. Not just in the way he dressed, but the way he looked, the way he carried himself overall. And ultimately, he was the kind of iconic, global superstar athlete that mainstream America and beyond was comfortable inviting into their living room. It didn't start with Michael Jordan. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird had something to do with paving the way and creating an avenue and a foundation for that to take fold. Dr. J, Julius Erving, one could argue did the same, because when you heard Brent Musburger on CBS talking about the doctor making house calls, it was something special to behold. But ultimately, Michael Jordan was the one who springboarded it to another level. And by doing so, it made it easier for you to embrace the modern-day NBA athlete into your living room. Remember, when Commissioner David Stern, Adam Silver's predecessor, took over the NBA in the early 80s, it was perceived as being drug-infested, rife with a bunch of hooligans, not suitable for live national television. The finals were on, the playoffs, and I think the finals, it was on tape delay. It wasn't live. I remember because I was a Philadelphia 76ers, not really a Philadelphia 76ers fan. I was a Dr. J fan growing up, and I remember my boy Mark McKnight, my childhood buddy, who now lives in Austin, Texas. I remember when I wanted to punch him in the face because I had waited hours to see what the 76ers did against the Nets in the playoffs. And Albert King, Bernard King's little brother, had scorched the 76ers and knocked them out of the playoffs. And I didn't know because it was on tape delay, but Mark found out the score on radio and told me before I had a chance to watch the game. That's how I remember how the NBA was on tape delay. Magic and Bird took it to another level. And then Michael, even though I hate forgetting the bad boys because I never forget them. Isaiah and Dumas and all of those boys was something to behold as well. But they were winners, not necessarily aesthetically pleasing to television viewers. Even though watching them play at that Silverdome with 80,000 people, the Pontiac Silverdome, was something special. But Jordan clearly took it to another level as an individual iconic brand and figure. And it was because of Jordan that you looked at Penny Hardaway and Chris Webber and Larry Johnson and Vince Carter and Antoine Jameson and Kobe Bryant and Allen Iverson and Tracy McGrady and Grant Hill and all of these boys, and you started looking at those individual commodities and recognizing what they could bring to the game and what they could bring to the world of sports. But it was Michael Jordan who spearheaded it all in terms of its elevation to another level, to helping globalize the NBA brand. This is why he's so valuable. So when LeBron speaks about that, he speaks about the inspiration that Michael Jordan was. See, y'all see LeBron James on The Shop on HBO right now. Just the other day, he had Antonio Brown, Anthony Davis, 2 Chainz, Jamie Foxx. He had these boys on there with him. And you listen to them talk, and you see how defiant LeBron appears. And it might throw you aback a little bit. But you know why? Because he did his time. He carried himself properly. He was a professional. He became a champion, a global iconic figure and brand, who is now about the business of encouraging as many lives as he can, particularly those from disenfranchised communities, to inspire them to be all that they can be, rather than being dictated to about what they should be. So when he speaks about Jordan, that's what he remembers. Now, there's some of you out there that'll go like this. Well, who the hell is Jordan to set an example? I mean, he was quiet. Remember his line, Republicans, buy sneakers too? Remember when he refused to endorse a Democratic candidate out of North Carolina who was running against late Senator Jesse Helms? And people will look at stuff like that and try to hold it against him. But I would submit to you that you're not appreciating who Jordan was any more than you appreciated who a lot of people were. When you look at a Michael Jordan and you look at his quote-unquote hesitancy to speak out, do you know what he's done behind the scenes? Do you know that if he was outspoken as LeBron is now, that Michael Jordan might have inhibited or hindered his evolution into being a global iconic brand because folks would have gotten in his way? And if they had gotten in his way, who else's way would they have gotten in? Would the Fab Five and Jalen Rose been able to be who they were in terms of their impact? Would Shaquille O'Neal been able to have his impact? Would Kobe Bryant have been able to have his impact? Would Allen Iverson have been able to have his impact? Would LeBron James have been able to have his impact? It has to start somewhere. You look at Jackie Robinson and integrating baseball. Branch Rickey, the owner for the Dodgers, had other candidates. There were other people that he could have picked. People that were perceived as better baseball players than the great Jackie Robinson. But that wasn't the only reason why Branch Rickey chose him. He chose Jackie Robinson because of his temperament, his ability and his willingness to handle and absorb the vitriol that was going to be aimed in his direction while still maintaining composure. Because in order to integrate the sport of Major League Baseball and to pull that off and to set a shining example for other leagues to follow and for society as a whole to embrace integration more so than it was willing to at that particular moment in time, in order for that to transpire, you had to find somebody with the proper temperament to withstand the obstacles that were inevitably going to come their way without publicly displaying their frustration in such a way that would ultimately cancel the growth and the evolution into another stratosphere that was imminent, if indeed they were able to show patience. That was Jackie Robinson in 1947. It was Michael Jordan in the mid-'80s. And because Michael Jordan was that guy that was able to quietly and systematically matriculate his way through a system that would ultimately assist him into becoming the global iconic brand that he is, and ultimately a billionaire, he was able to shine a light on how things could be done, how obstacles could be overcome by a young black man born without affluence as his cushion, yet still able to rise to astronomical heights, personifying the American dream in ways that billions upon billions of people could only dream. That is what LeBron James was talking about. That is what he was so thankful for. That is why his emotions had to be perceived as sincere, because they transcend basketball. He was talking about life. And he hearkened back to a vision and a dream that even for him seemed likely unattainable at one point in time in the earlier years of his life, yet had reached fruition last night. That's why you look at him with what he said and appreciate where he's coming from. Yeah, there could be criticism about the free throws. There could be criticism about the dysfunctionality raking through the Lakers franchise like a virus right now. And I'll get into that in a few minutes. But as it strictly pertains to him eclipsing Michael Jordan and his words of respect while paying homage to Michael Jordan last night, that's an important point to think about, ladies and gentlemen. It's an important point not to forget. 888-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You are listening live to Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Another thing before I go to commercial break. Ladies and gentlemen, I was on this station. I'm in L.A. I'm doing a show from L.A. And I was on the radio station the other day talking to George Sedano about Jerry West. And I went into a story about Jerry West and, recruiting Shaq, got Shaq, Dr. Buss, promised him $1 million, ultimately hesitated to honor that commitment, which ticked Jerry West off, whatever. Jerry West, according to what I've been told, by Jerry West himself, by the way, adamantly and emphatically denies that. Loved Dr. Buss. I don't recall intimating that he didn't love Dr. Buss, but he wanted to make very, very clear he loved that man. And that man had a hell of a lot to the game of basketball. And he doesn't want any kind of story out there intimating that his relationship with Dr. Buss was anything less than special and stellar. He would know better than me. I'd heard that story many, many times over the years in regards to Dr. Buss and Jerry West over the Shaquille O'Neal item. Jerry West said, quote, "I've had a lot of problems with a lot of people in my lifetime. Dr. Buss was never one of them. I love that man. I miss that man dearly." And that is absolutely not true. There was never any beef whatsoever between he and I at all. And he wanted to make sure that I knew that. I'd heard that story for many, many years. I had never spoken to Jerry West directly about that. But if he says that's what it was, I'm going to keep him at his word. And if that qualifies as me making a correction, so be it. For the great Jerry West, it's worth it. He knows his life a hell of a lot better than me. I'd heard that story many times. He emphatically denies that's how things went down. Didn't go into details, at least for your edification, as to how things went down. But he wanted me to emphasize he loved himself some Dr. Jerry Buss. And he doesn't ever want any kind of impression given to the contrary. Jerry West has earned that distinction, especially from me. And I won't speak about those rumors and stories as it pertains to him ever again. 888, say ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. That was Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, when you're hiring, you don't want to waste time sorting through dozens of irrelevant resumes, do you? You want an efficient way to get to a short list of qualified candidates. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job in minutes, set up screening questions based on your job requirements, then zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive online dashboard. Discover why 3 million businesses use Indeed for hiring. Post a job today at Indeed.com/hire. Search for greatness. Search Indeed. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Back with your calls and more in a minute.
Learn what affects your credit scores and what you can do to improve them with Credit Karma. Maybe you need to dispute an error in your credit report, or you're paying too much interest. Credit Karma can help with that. Visit CreditKarma.com or download the app now. That's CreditKarma.com.
I told you today I'm coming. There will be no guest on the show today. I don't want any guest on the show today. This is 2 hours. This is the Stephen A. Smith Show. It's my platform, and damn it, I ain't playing. I got a lot to say. I'm mad we got to go to commercial because commercial takes up my damn time today. That's how pissed off I am. Let's go right down to this quote. Charlie Casserly on Kyler Murray, Heisman Trophy winner, 42 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, completed 69% of his passes. Got you to the college football playoffs just like Baker Mayfield did. And look at this quote about Kyler Murray. Well, he better hope Kingsbury, you know, the unqualified coach of the Arizona Cardinals, fired with a less than 500 record out of Texas Tech, got a job as a coordinator at USC, and before the man had a chance to go to Roscoe's for chicken and waffles, he was the damn head coach of an NFL team. That Cliff Kingsbury, remember him? That guy. Well, listen to this. According to Charlie Casserly of the NFL Network, quote, well, Kyler Murray, he better hope Kingsbury takes him number one because this was not good. This was the worst comments I ever got on a high-rated quarterback, and I've been doing this for a long time. I've probably been doing it longer than you're alive, whatever reporter he was talking to. Fair enough. Anyway, leadership, not good. Study habits, not good. The board work, Below not good. Not good at all in any of these areas and raising major concerns about what this guy is going to do.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
If you missed my opening segment, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith podcast, brought to you by Capital One. Capital One is reimagining banking, offering accounts with no fees or minimums that can be opened in 5 minutes. Capital One. Hey, hey, what's in your wallet? 888-SAY-ESPN. That's always the number to call into the Stephen A. Smith Show. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Yesterday, before I get back to the phones, congratulating LeBron James on the eclipsing Michael Jordan. There is a flip side to things. Number one, Los Angeles Lakers looked bad last night. They were down by 19. They came back, nearly closed the gap significantly before Denver pulled away. Denver's a team to be reckoned with. They're shot makers. Jokic didn't even have a good game last night. They usually struggle on the road, but Mike Malone told me after the game, you know what, you bring your defense with you on the road. You don't turn over the ball as much. That's how you win games on the road. And you know, they had just one turnover in the first quarter. They didn't have too many for the game. Jamal Murray is a shot maker. Gary Harris is something special. When he gets aggressive, no doubt. Barton, I mean, these guys can play. These guys can play. Isaiah Thomas, like, what'd you think about us now? Isaiah Thomas, who's had, you know, I mean, if he didn't have his hip injuries, I mean, we act like the brother can't play. The man averaged 28.9 points per game last time we saw him healthy over 2 seasons ago. That Isaiah Thomas. Brother can play now once he gets healthy. I'm just praying that he gets healthy. But look at the Denver Nuggets. They're a team to be reckoned with. It's going to be difficult for people to go to the Mile High City and that altitude and beat these boys. I'm telling y'all right now. It's not a foregone conclusion. It's not a foregone conclusion that's going to happen. I'm just letting you know. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. As regards to the Lakers, it's an absolute mess. Now, I'm told Rob Pelinka's safe. He and Magic are on the same page. Luke Walton's gone. He won't be the coach next year. LeBron James has to own some culpability. This is what you hear coming out of Lakers camp. What you hear in terms of the scuttlebutt around NBA circles is that the players can't stand LeBron James. They don't particularly like him. You know, you hear that you hear these coaches that are going to be on the circuit, and you know, one minute you're hearing they'll pursue Doc Rivers. Another thing you're hearing that Doc Rivers is told, don't even think about coming here. It's a mess here. I mean, it's crazy, the mess that's going on with the Los Angeles Lakers. One minute you hear Magic and Pelinka on the same page. Another minute you're hearing Pelinka's in the walls of the Lakers practice facility. Have you seen Magic? Anybody seen Magic to bring attention to the fact that Magic ain't there? Everybody's accusing somebody else of lying. We got GD Bus talking about fake news from the media. I mean, Brandon Ingram, through his fathers, complaining about front office moves. If you listen to NBA folks, I mean, it's just a mess. It's an absolute mess. And Magic Johnson's going to have to get a hold of this stuff before it turns into Jim Buss era part 2. I mean, I just can't believe it. Now, some of it the truth and some of it lies? Probably. I don't know. All I know is that it's very, very bad to hear all of this. It's not good. It's not good. It's an absolute positive mess. And somewhere along the lines, they're going to have to do something about it. It's just that simple. I'll get into KD and Golden State and the noise going on out there in Northern California where my boy Chris Haynes used to be at ESPN's, now at Yahoo Sports. That's my brother. Good people. Only problem I got with him is he wear these damn Converse sneakers with his suit. Something wrong with him. But he did have on shoes the last time I saw him. So that's good. That's good. 888 say ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. And I'll get into some Kyler Murray stuff in a few minutes as well, because I went off about that yesterday and I'm still going off about it. Sabotaging this kid's chances of being the number 1 overall pick. Just a height of irresponsibility as far as I'm concerned. You got to be kidding me. Stuff that was said about him. Boy Ball, 4,300 yards passing, 42 touchdowns, 69% completion percentage, rushed for over 1,000 yards. You had questions about his height? He's over 5'10". You had questions about his weight? He's over 207 pounds. You had questions about his hand size? 9.5. After all of that stuff, now you come. Here y'all come. Or here some folks come. Character issues. Not watching film and his leadership capabilities. I mean, you got to be kidding me. It's ridiculous. Chris, you're live with Stephen A. What's going on?
Hey, Stephen A. Good talking to you again.
Go ahead, man.
Real quick, just want to send congratulations out to LeBron and what he did last night. You eloquently stated that at the beginning. It was just more than basketball. It's the example he set for people who look like you and I himself on what it's like to put yourself in a position to be successful and just continue to strive for things. But I want to point this out, Stephen A. This is just my opinion. I don't know if I heard anybody say this, but as great as LeBron is and how he has been over the years playing in the league, I think right now at the stage he is where he is now in his career, Stephen A., I don't believe that LeBron James can be the best player on a championship team moving forward. And that goes for any team that if he finishes with the Lakers, if he goes somewhere else, whatever the case may be. I don't know if he can be the best player on a championship level team. What do you say to that?
I think you're wrong. I think it's a matter of who you have on your roster. I think great players can play with LeBron James. I don't think he's the kind of player that great players can't play with. I think that's utterly ridiculous. He doesn't have a good enough roster. Now, he may be handling things differently because he knows that they're limited and he's not treating them appropriately, whether it's not coddling them enough, whether it's being too abrasive with them, being on their case too much, or being distant from them while he pursues his interest in Hollywood. I think it's clear that he could do a better job in regards to that. But to say that he can't be the best player on a championship team, excuse me, yes, he can. If you had another great player, just somebody that wasn't as great as him, no, LeBron could do some damage. So I completely and utterly disagree with that.
Okay. Well, no, I mean, that's fine. I just wanted to get your perspective on that. Because
I appreciate it, man. Go ahead. Make your last point. Go ahead.
Yes, because I'm just looking at the last couple games, Stephen A. Perfect example.
Stop.
Just my opinion.
Stop. Nope. Stop right there. LeBron James been in the league how many years?
A long time. I haven't
16, 17 years.
16.
LeBron
Correct.
James is a 3-time champion, right?
Yes.
He's a 4-time league MVP, right?
Yes.
This year he's averaging 27 a game, just like he's averaged 27.2 points per game for his entire career. Is that correct?
I don't have the numbers in front of it. I believe
Yeah,
so,
I
yes.
do. And you
Yes,
just said over the last couple of games.
But I was trying to make a point though, Stephen A. But okay. All right.
How fair? I'm saying, how fair is that though? How fair is it to point to point? Let's say, for example, take out the last couple of games. Let's say LeBron James since Christmas. Let's say, for example, LeBron James was awful since Christmas. Is it really right to judge him based on that?
No, of course not. Of course not, Stephen A. But you have to look at the writing on the walls, in my opinion, for somebody who I really dissect this game of basketball. If you're looking at when teams go against him, Stephen, I don't know if opposing players fear him like they have in the past.
Hold on, I've always said they never feared him. I've always said that, even in his prime. Do you know why? What's the number one reason? Since you dissect the game of basketball, what's the number one reason they didn't fear LeBron?
His mentality. He didn't have that Mamba-like mentality. And LeBron.
You know what it is? You can make that argument. That's a good one, but I still don't agree with it. You know what the number one reason is? Because when all is said and done, all I got to do is foul him.
Right. I agree with that as well. That's a factor as well.
There you go.
But I'm just looking at the bigger picture, Stephen A. He's getting older and all that stuff. But I'm just saying, from a talent perspective, I'm not sure if players are like I'm the Patrick Beverly not incident, but when Pat was guarding him, I'm like, clearly Pat is not afraid of him. And then I'm looking at
really?
DeAndre Ayton.
Stop right there. Stop right there. Who is Patrick Beverly afraid of?
That's true. That's true. But let me ask you.
You just brought it up.
No, well, that's but you're right. But you think Doc would have put Pat on Kobe Bryant and Kobe?
Yes.
Kobe knew he needed to win a game.
Yes.
Okay.
You put Patrick Beverly on anybody because he's not scared of anybody.
Okay.
And he's feisty, and he's a pest. I got to go. Appreciate the call, but that's a terrible example. Patrick Beverly, that ain't the example to pick up. Sorry. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Back with more of your phone calls in a minute before my man Chris Haynes comes on the show to holler at me. By the way, do you have frequent heartburn? Like the kind where you have antacids stashed everywhere in case it pops up? You know what I mean. You keep some in your bag or your desk or your car or your nightstand. You have those chalky tablets ready for whenever and wherever heartburn strikes. Well, listen up. There's an easier way to deal with your heartburn. That's Prilosec OTC. Just one pill a day will last a full 24 hours with zero heartburn. So kick your antacid habit, please. It's possible with Prilosec OTC. Users directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn. It's not for immediate relief. Back to your calls and more. It's Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News.
Gentlemen, you've been sitting around for too long. Whether you want to get to the game, NFL, college, MLB, or concert, look no further than Vivid Seats, the official ticket partner of ESPN. Go to vividseats.com and enter promo code ESPN to get 10% off your order.
Be your first 1, 2, and 3 in that category.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan, okay, and then and then who would be 2?
LeBron. It depends.
You would put LeBron over Kobe Bryant?
Yes, but not in the last 2 minutes. Not when the game matters. I would put LeBron James over Kobe if it's just a matter of 82 games over 48 minutes a night. Because I think as a physical specimen with all that he brings to the table, he does more. And as a result, that would be it. I wouldn't want LeBron over them when it matters most because I consider Michael Jordan and Kobe killers, all right? And I mean that affectionately in a good way. The problem that Kobe has is that Kobe inevitably is compared to MJ because Kobe and MJ were both off guards and primarily scorers. LeBron James is a scorer, somebody who could score, but LeBron James is more of a significantly elevated version of Magic Johnson athletically. You know, he does things. His mentality and temperament is that of Magic. In terms of Magic, LeBron would rather make the pass than take the shot. Michael Jordan gave up the ball to a Steve Kerr or a B.J. Armstrong or a Craig Hodges or or John Paxson. Kobe Bryant obviously would give up the ball as well. But essentially, their mentality is to take matters into their own hands. LeBron has no problem being deferential.
I see. Okay, and then my second question, quick question on the Lakers dysfunctional. Last night watching the game and watching the youngsters get a shot to play, they had that young core, man, they were rugged. They played, man, they had me getting off my seat. I mean, it was awesome to see the young core to play with that kind of heart. And they did better than the starters do. So my question to you, with all the dysfunction that's going on with the coach, the players, and everything else, what do you think that needs to happen for the Lakers in order to get better next season?
Well, listen, I think that you're going to have to purge half the roster. Luke Walton, unfortunately, is going to be made to pay a price because of the roster that he had to deal with and couldn't. I think Rondo's sitting on, away from the team the way that he was, no matter the fact that he's done it on numerous occasions, it doesn't take away from the fact that how disrespectful and dismissive it looked toward the coaching staff. And when you consider what some players might be saying about LeBron, how Rondo feels about the coaching staff, the lack of respect the coaching staff has, combined with Magic and Pelinka, it's just a dysfunctional situation right now that Magic is going to have to clean up quick, fast, and in a hurry. I believe he can do it, but he's got his work cut out for him.
From coast to
Stephen A. Smith Show starts right now.
Welcome to hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, coming at you as I love to do every weekday. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Credit Karma. Get your truly free credit scores and free credit monitoring from Credit Karma today. That's Credit Karma, K-A-R-M-A. Get knowing. Plus, you know what never goes out of style? Surprising a friend or loved one with buy one, get one free multicolored rose bouquets for $29.99 from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Any minute now, we should be having NBA writer, NBA insider, Chris Haynes on with yours truly. He used to work here at ESPN. He's at Yahoo Sports right now. He's my boy, one of my brothers. Got a mad love for him, and he reported something about the Golden State Warriors and Kevin Durant that I think is worth touching on, because he's talking about how some folks in Golden State fear that Kevin Durant has 1 foot out the door. Some people are making a big deal out of it. Others are not. But I'm going to get him to elaborate extensively on what he ultimately had to report. Chris Haynes, my brother, is on the line with me right now. What's up, man?
Stephen A., what's going on, my guy?
Well, first question. Do you have on sneakers and a suit, or did you finally go buy some shoes? Which one is it, Chris? I just want to make sure.
Stephen A., man, I've taken your advice since you got on my white chucks that I was wearing with damn near every suit that I had.
That's right.
I've upgraded.
Okay, so you've upgraded and you went shoe shop, because you know me. You know I will take you shoe shopping now. You know how I am.
My God, man. No, I'm upgraded. I think you'll be impressed, Stephen.
All right. And you know I'm going to be looking. The first thing I'm going to look at when I see you, too. But Chris, man, obviously, man, you're always doing a great job covering the NBA. And obviously you just wrote something about Kevin Durant for Yahoo, and you were talking about how Kevin Durant, some people are fearing he's got 1 foot out the door. Just elaborate and tell everybody what you reported.
Well, look, obviously, I think even the people from the outside looking in can see that Kevin Durant hasn't been in a good mood pretty much most of this season. And I think a lot of it stems from, well, I know for sure it stemmed from that initial spat with Draymond Green earlier in the season. And so, people within the Warriors just looking at his disposition, his body language, he's leaving by himself, leaving the arena. He's kind of being, solo. In that regard, and what I wrote was that there are people within the organization who do feel like Kevin Durant has 1 foot out the door, and there's others who are optimistic, and they just feel like this is just the standard annoyances of a rigorous 82-game season. And so the organization, for lack of a better word, there's some paranoia going on as far as how what they think Kevin Durant is going to do in this free agency, and it's rubbed up some people the wrong way. But Kevin Durant has this; it's his decision to make, and he doesn't owe anybody a thing until this summer.
Chris Haynes for Yahoo Sports right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. With that being said, knowing Kevin Durant the way that you do, and knowing the Warriors the way that you do, which include Draymond Green, when they had that spat right here in L.A. at the Staples Center going up against the Los Angeles Clippers, if I remember correctly. How much of a lingering effect do you, Chris, knowing them the way that you do, how much of a lingering effect do you believe it's had on Kevin Durant, the relationship with Draymond Green, and all of obviously his willingness to stay and go to State? I only asked that because I was just in Philadelphia with them last Saturday. They seem to be getting along pretty fine to me. Talk to me about that.
I think those two are fine. I really do think those two, that they're okay. You see them, in the locker room. They have a locker. I think there's 2 locker stalls that separates them, but for the most part, there's nobody really sitting there a lot of times, and it's those two. And you see them talking and engaging. So I think those two have repaired it as much as it can be repaired. Now, the way that Golden State handled that, I don't know if Draymond is fully accepted the way that was handled. As far as you see guys have spats with each other on teams before, and and you just think nothing of it, you let it go. But the organization decided to suspend Draymond for a game. So in that regard, I can see how that could have created some issues that still linger. And we all seen that who's Draymond, who he's hired as an agent, coming up here. So look, I think from that standpoint, from those two, and just pertaining to those two, I think they're fine. I think there's other issues that might be on their horizon soon.
But for those that may not understand, Chris, highlight what those other issues may be. You're the reigning two-time NBA champion. You're the reigning two-time NBA Finals MVP. You guys are still universally recognized as the prohibitive favorite, assuming that they are true to what they say their priorities are, that they're going to keep Klay Thompson. They're going to make sure they take care of him. There's no way in hell they're losing him to the Lakers or anybody else. You'd have the greatest shooting backcourt in history as your teammates. What would be the issue that would make Kevin Durant want to leave a situation like the Golden State Warriors?
Well, look, you look at it, Stephen A., and he's been the finals MVP back-to-back years. And then you still have people who are criticizing him for the decision to join, even though he was the one. I do think without him, I don't think the Warriors win. I think they have a better chance of winning last year, but he put them over the top, and he's still not truly appreciated for the player that he is. And so, you think about those issues that can come up. Well, we're talking about free agency. We're talking about Kevin Durant. We're talking about Klay Thompson. We're talking about Draymond's potential extension, and then him ultimately, could be in a free agent in the summer of 2020. So there are a lot of things that are, that are on the horizon at the same time, with the fact that Golden State needs all these players in uniform going into next season with that new state-of-the-art arena they're building in San Francisco. So, look, they have to win. And, Kevin Durant, he said it time and time again. He's a different cat. Some people call him sensitive or whatever. But Golden State has to win. They have to win. And I think Kevin Durant has to feel that appreciation with the organization in order for them to have a good summer this year with their free agency. So it's going to be I think it's going to be over quickly as far as what Golden State does over the summer. But, man, we just don't know what it is. I can't say he's leaning one way or the other. It's just what it is right now.
Chris Haynes, Yahoo Sports, right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. We're talking about Kevin Durant, Golden State Warriors. His story on Yahoo about how Kevin Durant has 1 foot in and 1 foot out the door, according to some folks within the Warriors organization. Not all, but some. Having said all of that, Chris, let me ask you this question. Because you watch Kevin Durant, you know him. You've watched him appear to be a bit sensitive, particularly when talking about the media. We all saw him call out one dude right on national television. He didn't give a damn, okay? We got all that. My attitude is this. If you're that way playing in Golden State, how would you be in New York? Wouldn't that be a nightmare? I don't know if any human being could take it. I just don't know, Chris. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Bay Area media, they're not relentless by any standards, and so Kevin Durant at times he has going on the defensive, and just the pressure, the last pressure we had, where Steve Kerr has a saying, that the team plays with joy. When they're playing with joy, that's when they're at their best. He always says that. That's a mantra of his. And then, then last game, Steve Kerr said they didn't play with anger. And then Kevin Durant was asked about the anger part, and Kevin Durant, knowing Steve Kerr's mantra, said, "Hold on, I thought we were supposed to play with joy. Now it's anger? Man, I don't agree with that. That was a clear shot. That was a clear shot. There was no other way to look at it." And so, he gets in those modes. But I've spoken to him since, and he just believes that what he does on the court should validate everything. That's his main thing. He's a hooper. He's a basketball player. He's not a politician. He's not going to go up there and say the politically correct thing. You know, he feels like he's just going to come out and say it, and he feels like some things that he says is, get scrutinized or gets put out there in a way that's negative to the team. And, I have to tell him sometimes, Stephen A., I'm like, damn, if you eat a bunch of White Castle and pass gas, you know what I mean? People gonna say you didn't take a bath.
That's right.
That every now and then.
You stole that line from me. You stole that line from me, Chris. That's what you did. You used my line. Did you use my line, Chris? Chris stole my line. He stole my, because I'll be damned if I didn't say that many times. Chris Hayes, senior NBA insider, right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. It's the absolute truth. Your past gas is going to, they going to tell you stink now. That's what they going to do.
You have to be curious for like 30 minutes.
Oh, man, please, come on now. You know it's the truth. It's absolutely the truth. But interesting, it's interesting we talk about that, Chris, because now we're looking at Kevin Durant. We're looking at Kyrie. And again, I'm talking to you about Kevin Durant. I'm talking to you about the Warriors, but you covered the entire NBA. You've seen these guys. You've seen Kyrie appear a bit sensitive. Charles Barkley just went off about him, talking about how Kyrie looks miserable. You got Kevin Durant. He's going off about some things. How much, Kawhi Leonard, his persona, and how people don't think he's going to come to the Lakers because he don't want all of that drama. When you look at these marquee names that's scheduled to be available in free agency, I usually thought it was about the city, the team, the game. Now I'm looking about the media having a profound impact because these dudes just ain't going to want to deal with all of that. What do you say about that?
Look, I think when you're thinking about the top free agents that's going to be available, Kyrie, Kawhi, Kevin Durant, let's break down Durant and Kawhi. For the most part, they've been linked to the Knicks. We talking about Durant and Kawhi. If they're not going to stay with their teams, they've been linked to the Knicks. And Kyrie, has been, Lakers have been on board, just with LeBron angle, But for the most part, we think they stand with their team or going to the Knicks. Kawhi, for the most part, has been linked to the Clippers, and or possibly staying with Toronto. You got Jimmy Butler out there. It's Philly. There's Brooklyn. There's the Clippers. And so there's not really a lot of those top free agents who have a direct link to the Los Angeles Lakers. And so I wouldn't say it was necessarily because of the media. I really do think it's about basketball fit and where they want to feel most comfortable at. And I think, I don't think necessarily it's the media. Like, I think there's too much hoopla about the local media and their contingent and how aggressive they are. I think more so it's about social media. It's social media and how players looking at that and allowing that to dictate their one's feeling. And Stephen A., you know this a lot. Like, you've been in radio. You had a radio show for years. Before I got into this field, I used to be a radio producer. And I found that when I was a producer, the people who would call in, it was mostly negative people. Like, it was mostly negative people who would call in on a radio show and have something to say. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of equate that to social media. And when people on social media, it's negative people who probably envy your position, envy your profession, and they're going to spout out and say something negative and try to bring you down. Mm-hmm. And then if you're basing what the public perception is off of social media, that's not the absolute truth, because those same people who are killing you on social media, criticizing you, cussing you out, talking about your mama, when they see Stephen A. or when they see Kevin Durant out there in person, they asking for an autograph.
That's right.
And so,
or a picture.
So I think, or a picture, exactly. Maybe even your phone number, Stephen A. I know you probably got those problems.
They'll never get that. They'll never get that. They'll never get that. They'll never get that, Chris. Not even if they offered me some White Castle. It's not happening.
You know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Let me ask you this, though. When you look at the situation here in L.A., because that's where I'm at right now, I never thought it would be this bad, man. I mean, they were rolling until LeBron got hurt, true. But now you hear so much stuff going on with the Los Angeles Lakers. 1 minute it's LeBron, another minute it's the players, another minute it's Luke Walton, another minute it's Magic Johnson. Right now, covering the NBA, what's the scuttlebutt about these Lakers? What are people saying nationwide about them right now?
Well, I mean, they point at that roster, and obviously, look, there was a bunch of there's blame to be had all around. This roster was not constructed properly. Period. End of discussion. And I get why they wanted to add a lot of playmakers alongside LeBron James. That's something he hasn't had the luxury of in previous years. But it just didn't work out. And look, they were one of the top. They were one of the top 4 teams in the conference before LeBron James went down. And injuries depleted them. And look, Lou Walton. And I covered LeBron in Cleveland that year that he came back. And Luke Walton, I equate his situation as similar to David Blatt. David Blatt, that wasn't a team he signed up to coach. He signed up to coach a team that was centered around young guys and Kyrie Irving, Deion Waiters, and Tristan Thompson. And all of a sudden, the best player comes on board. And so Luke Walton wasn't put in the right situation to succeed. And, there's just blame all around Stephen A. And then, the way the AD situation was handled, I personally do think, like LeBron kind of opened up the floodgates, just, he said, by him saying, he know his voice rings supreme, him
right.
saying something, but that kind of started everything with, saying he wanted to play alongside AD, even though there's a lot of players who say they want to play with such and such. LeBron is a different cat. That kind of started the whole thing, the way the trade deadline went, it just messed everything up. It's
but I
guess I've never seen.
I guess, Chris, what I'm asking is, how much do you think this is going to negatively influence the Lakers' ability to get a free agent this summer? Or they're going to find themselves having to wait, hope, and pray that Anthony Davis ultimately arrives?
I don't think this situation or this year is going to negatively impact what they get this summer. Because, like I said, I think those guys that I mentioned already, they already have other teams as primary destinations before they get to the Lakers. So I don't think, I just don't think there was never a player out there that we directly linked to the Lakers. It just wasn't out there this summer. And that's why I'm saying I don't think this season affects that. I think the Lakers really have to hope and pray that they can land AD and then bring on the other chips from there. Because I just really do think as of right now, as of what I'm hearing right now, I just think those other free agents, big free agents I mentioned, I just think there's other teams that's ahead of the Lakers right now.
Chris Haynes right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's go back to the Warriors in terms of what Draymond Green had to say in defense of Boogie Cousins just a day ago. He was talking about, because we were looking at Boogie Cousins, who's got limited lateral movement, can't really defend, it appears. Boston certainly attacked him with fervor the other night in that blowout loss to the Celtics by the Warriors. But Draymond Green spoke up for his teammate, said, excuse me, we stink defensively. We ain't handling our business. We're not doing what we're supposed to do. How do you know what he can do if we ain't doing what we're supposed to be doing? What did you make of Draymond's comments in regards to Boogie Cousins' defense on that level?
I like that. He's the emotional leader of the team. He's the one who's going to have a voice and has a presence, and his voice speaks volumes. And I like it. He's coming out in defense of DeMarcus Cousins because these teams are targeting DeMarcus. They're calling for that pick to get DeMarcus on that switch, and those teams are taking advantage of him. And look, to be honest, to think that DeMarcus, first of all, when he was healthy in all-star form, he wasn't the best in pick and roll coverage, but he's still trying to get his legs back, and so he's definitely not going to be up to form now. And so I like what Draymond had to say, and he put it on him. He said, I'm not playing well defensively myself, and so he kind of trying to shoulder the load. That's what you're supposed to do, but I think the Warriors. That's why they went after Andrew Bogut to try to get somebody who's familiar with the offense, somebody who they can plug in right away with limited practice time. And, just in case DeMarcus isn't able to show this significant load in the postseason, if teams are going to continue to attack him like that, they got Andrew Bogut in there, somebody who's been playing all season, had a pretty good year. He's fresh. He only played like 30-something games in our Australian League. So he can come in and plug him in right away. But, that's going to be something we need to look out for, DeMarcus, and how he improves defensively for sure.
Do you see somebody beating the Warriors in the Western Conference this year?
I do not, Stephen A. I think right now, even with, I don't think there's drama over there right now. I wrote about just how the roles reversed because Boston was going into that game with Golden State all reeling, and then we saw KD put on his post-game display. But look, if Golden State is healthy, they're bored right now. But if they're healthy and just revved up, I can see them sweeping the conference.
Sweeping the conference. That includes Houston and OKC?
That excludes anybody. I can see them sweeping the conference. I really do think that if they're healthy, I think they'll be look, because this can very well be the end of a dynasty if things go disastrous for them in free agency. But I'm talking about Clay and KD. So
you don't see that happening, though, do you? You don't see them losing both, do you?
I don't see it happening. I don't see that happening. No, I don't. But the possibility is there, and I think these players are going to look at this as motivation to try to go out there and just go out there and assassinate whoever's in their path. I don't see it happening, but I just think they're just going to be motivated just from the what if.
All right. Well, how do you explain that they lost by 33 to Boston the other day?
I explain it because it's March and nobody really gives a damn. That's how I explain it. Klay Thompson didn't play. I'm just being real, Stephen A.
Yeah, I got you.
I'm being real.
Well, you better be real with me. Wearing sneakers and suits, you better be real with me. You better be. Hey, Chris, before I let you get on out of here, who do you have coming out of the East?
Woo, man.
That's a dicey one. It's a dicey one right there.
It is a dice. For most of the year, Stephen A., I said Boston, man, but it's really hard for me to get on board that right now. They're so up and down.
I know.
I'm gonna go with. I love what Milwaukee is doing. I want to say that. I want them to come out my mouth right now, but I just can't get it out right now. I don't feel that comfortable because they haven't taken a lot of steps yet to say that they're going to get straight to the finals. I'm going to go with Toronto.
Look, man, you got to learn to – listen, I know you keep it real and all that stuff, but you got to learn to follow my lead sometimes. First of all, I have no desire to go to Milwaukee, so I'm not apologizing for it. Secondly, with Toronto, I don't have global entry yet. I don't have global entry. So I'm not trying to go to – now, Toronto is lovely when you get there. But getting out of there is a different kind of problem. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not afraid to tell you. What?
Even for you, Stephen A., I know you got the private jet. Even for you?
I mean, I'm just saying, man, it's a little bit rough sometimes. I got to have global entry. So I'm rooting for Boston, man. I picked them at the beginning, and I'm rooting for them, Chris Hayes. That's what I'm doing, okay?
You didn't ask me, Stephen A., you didn't ask me who I was rooting for.
That's
you asked me who I thought was going to be there.
That's true.
If you ask me who I'm rooting for, damn it, I'm rooting for the Miami Heat to get to the finals.
Oh, damn. That's true. We'd be rooting for the Heat and the Lakers, wouldn't we? We'd be rooting for the Heat and Lakers. That's what we would be doing, Chris Hayes. That's what the hell we would be doing, but we're stuck with these other cities. I appreciate you, man.
That's all we got to work with.
I appreciate you, bro. Keep doing a great job, my man. Thank you.
Appreciate you, my guy. Take care.
No doubt. The one and only Chris Haynes, senior NBA insider for Yahoo Sports, formerly at ESPN, right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. That's my brother. Had to have him on. Him, Mark Spears, the whole crew. Chris Broussard, I got a whole bunch of friends. John Mitchell, a whole bunch of friends in this industry. Love them all. Anytime I get to talk to them, you damn right they're going to be on my show. That's the way it rolls. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. We'll react to what Chris Haynes just broke down and then some in a minute. By the way, if you haven't tried the delicious high-quality meat from Butcher Box, you're going to be blown away. Butcher Box brings you meat the way it's meant to be, so you can get all of the benefits you're supposed to get. Unbelievable flavor and unparalleled nutrition. They work closely with the best farms and companies committed to raising animals humanely, from grass-fed beef to free-range organic chicken to wild-caught sockeye salmon from Bristol Bay, Alaska. Butcher Box has over 20 different cuts of meat to choose from, with customizable boxes and a variety of other options to choose from. And Butcher Box comes at an affordable price. With free shipping, you can get a month's worth of the best tasting meat from Butcher Box for less than $6 a meal. Butcher Box is offering my listeners free ground beef for the life of your subscription and $20 off your first box when you sign up at butcherbox.com butcherbox.com/Stephen A. Don't miss out on this special offer at butcherbox.com/Stephen A. butcherbox.com/Stephen A. That's with a PH, not a V. Back with more of your calls in a minute. It's Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News.
Gentlemen.
I told you today I'm coming. There will be no guest on the show today. I don't want any guests on the show today. This is 2 hours. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show. It's my platform, and damn it, I ain't playing. I got a lot to say. I'm mad we got to go to commercial because commercial takes up my damn time today. That's how pissed off I am. Let's go right down to this quote. Charlie Casserly on Kyler Murray, Heisman Trophy winner, 42 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, completed 69% of his passes, got you to the college football playoffs just like Baker Mayfield did. And look at this quote about Kyler Murray. Well, he better hope Kingsbury, the unqualified coach of the Arizona Cardinals, fired with a less than 500 record out of Texas Tech, got a job as a coordinator at USC, and before the man had a chance to go to Roscoe's for chicken and waffles, he was the damn head coach of an NFL team. That Cliff Kingsbury, remember him? That guy. Well, listen to this. According to Charlie Casserly of the NFL Network, quote, well, Kyler Murray, he better hope Kingsbury takes him number one because this was not good. This was the worst comments I ever got on a high-rated quarterback, and I've been doing this for a long time. I've probably been doing it longer than you're alive. Whatever reporter he was talking to, fair enough. Anyway, leadership, not good. Study habits, not good. The board work, below, not good. Not good at all in any of these areas and raising major concerns about what this guy is going to do.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio is being brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. So make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Plus, ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, making it easy to bundle your home and your car insurance. Thanks again to my brother, my man, the one and only Chris Haynes, NBA insider extraordinaire for Yahoo Sports, formerly of ESPN, coming on the show with yours truly to talk about his article on the KD having one foot out the door in Golden State. Really appreciate him. Miss my man. Looking forward to seeing him come playoff time. Let's get back to the phones at 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Oh, by the way, there's some scout that's made news because I think he called in to a show. Essentially, Pro Football Talk, if I remember correctly, reported this. When a quarterback, Kyler Murray, sprouted from under 5'10" in August to over 5'10" in February, eyebrows were raised. I joked that maybe he spent 48 hours in a zero-gravity chamber before coming to the combine. In the eyes of some, maybe it wasn't a joke. Quote, I think that his height was inflated, an unnamed scout told Dan Patrick on Tuesday. And Dan relayed the story on the Wednesday edition of his show. Maybe it's the tinfoil hat theory. I just don't see it. If he refuses to be measured at the pro day, that will be telling. So now you got somebody else trying to bring into question Kyler Murray's height. He lied, blah, 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 blah. Trying to tear this kid down. Trying to tear the kid down. 4,300 yards passing, over 1,000 yards rushing, 69% of his passes completed. All of this stuff going on, and these folks actually sat up there and said, you know what? There were less questions about the character of Baker Mayfield than his, essentially. Can't make it up. Just can't make it up. Vance, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hello, Cleveland.
How are you, sir?
Good. I just want to know, do you think they can win, the Warriors can win without Klay Thompson?
No, I think they'll need all their horses, but I think they'll have them and they'll run over anybody. But I think you definitely need your big three. You need Klay, Steph, and Kevin Durant. I definitely believe that.
Yeah, because Klay, they don't seem to win without Klay.
Yep, exactly. Clay's big time. Clay's arguably one of the top 5 shooters in NBA history, man. He's a sniper. He is. Appreciate the call. Thank you. Burton, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
How you doing, now?
I'm all right. Talk to me.
Man, my comment is about the Lakers also, my man. I think it's gonna be hard for anybody to play with LeBron, man. Like it's the way that we have put him on his pedestal. He's not like a regular player. Like what I'm saying, when he came there with them young dudes, like this is little stuff like when they shoot a foul shot, walking up, and you know how they like give each other a foul or whatever. It's little stuff like that, bro. And he ain't gonna be able to make it with nobody if he don't get that together.
Well, my whole point is this. You know, at the end of the day, we're going to learn a lot about LeBron, who signed a 4-year deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. We're going to learn a lot about LeBron if nobody wants to come and play in L.A. I mean, think about that. LeBron James, listen, that's what I said. It's possible. It's possible. I'm told no, but they could be lying. They could be lying. I'm told no, but they could be lying. At the end of the day, here's what it comes down to. You're LeBron. You have the Laker brand as your backdrop, and you can't get anybody to come in and play. I think that would be the ultimate indictment against them. That's my personal opinion. Appreciate the call. Quinn, you're live with Stephen A. What's up? Quinn, are you there? Quinn.
Yeah.
Bye, Quinn. Yeah. Daniel, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Daniel.
Hey, what's going on, man? I'm a big fan, Stephen A. Big fan. So
Thank you. Go ahead, man.
I have a quick question about Mark Jackson as the potential coach. First off, I want to give him partial credit to the Warriors' success before they hired Steve Kerr.
Of course.
Everybody tried to give it to him. But I was watching the game last night, and to see how ticked off Mark Jackson was, to see Rondo sitting in a fan seat away from the team. I mean, first off, LeBron did it, you know, being away from the bench. But what do you think? Do you think that Mark Jackson will be a perfect fit for the Lakers as the next head coach?
I think he'd definitely be an upgrade. And I hate saying that because I like Luke Walton, and I think Luke Walton was given a raw deal because of the roster. There's but so much you can expect of him to do with this. But I definitely think that Mark Jackson, I definitely think that's something that will work out. But you got to get him talent. Got to get him talent.
He came. He had that little streak, and, you know, it just I don't know.
You know, That's what I'm saying. You know what? Listen, the Splash Brothers, in all likelihood, they'll stay together in Golden State. But wouldn't it be interesting if Klay Thompson was willing to come to L.A. and Mark Jackson was his coach?
That would be very interesting. I think that would be a formidable tandem if LeBron stays and get his act together, for one.
We'll see.
But, you know, as being a Lakers fan, I'm a Kobe guy, and I was kind of skeptic about LeBron coming. But, you know, I think that he has the right intentions. He's trying to, you know, elevate the young guys, but it's just not the right mixture right now.
I got you. Appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. Bill, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen A. First, I just want to tell you that I've been a fan of yours for a very long time, and I really enjoy listening to you. I think that you are that your takes on most things are very much on point all the time. I want to just start by saying that I'm 42 years old. I'm a Caucasian. I'm not going to get into my mixed-race children. I'm not going to get into, you know, the minority women that I have been in love with, because I know that I can't feel the things that you feel or the things that they feel. But I want to tell you that you really upset me yesterday when you were talking about Kyler Murray and you were turning it into a racial issue, because I don't believe that it was. I think that there is certainly a story there that a guy who's projected to be the number one pick, but you were coming across to me, making it sound to me like we can't, or somebody can't criticize or say these things about a black athlete. And I'm wondering if the same things had been said last year about Sam Darnold, if you would have had the same reaction or the same take.
Well, first of all, you don't need to wonder. I'm right here. You asked, I'll answer the question directly. But before I do that, I have to ask you a question. You said that you've been, involved with, I assume that you're talking about black women, correct?
Well, yeah, I have black women, Hispanic women. I've been married. My children are mixed race.
Forget all of that for a second. I'm just using that to get to a point. Have there been times that you have disagreed with them because of their interpretation of something, and they were letting you know this is the perspective that I'm coming from that you just might not get? Your heart might be in the right place, but you might not get it. Is that possible?
Of course, and that is, and I'm going to tell you that those relationships opened my eyes greatly to the idea that I can see.
Sir,
and I can feel sympathy
I understand
even on
that. Listen. I'm not getting into. I'm trying to use that as impetus to answer your question. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to get in your personal business. Listen to what I'm saying to you. Kyler Murray has accomplished what he accomplished. You're talking about, I'm saying that it's not like somebody white can say something about this particular black athlete. First of all, let me be very, very clear. Most of the time, I'm up here going off about actions on the part of black athletes. So let's keep that in mind. Number two, when you think about what was said about Kyler Murray, what is my issue? My issue is that he's answered every issue that was brought to the table. He produced on the field. We don't need to go over those numbers. His height was questioned. His hand size was questioned. His weight was questioned. He addressed that. And then he goes to the NFL scouting combine, and Charlie Casserly comes out and says, oh my goodness, speaks so emphatically as if it's a matter of fact about this man's character, his willingness to watch film, his willingness to be a leader, etc. Where'd you hear that from? Lincoln Riley spoke up. He didn't talk to us. Any positional coaches? Nope, he didn't talk to us. You showed up at the scouting combine one day, and you decide to emphatically and damn near enthusiastically denigrate a kid who's a Heisman Trophy winner, threw for 4,300 yards, 42 touchdowns, completed 69% of his passes, didn't get in any trouble, ran for 1,000 yards. And not only did you do that, you mentioned Baker Mayfield as being seen in a brighter light character-wise, watching film, being a leader than this guy? How?
May I ask you a question in response?
Hold on, but I just answered you that question. You don't have any response to what I just said?
Well, I do, but the response is in the question. Isn't it possible that those things are true? Isn't it possible that he was bad on the board? The biggest problem that I have is not necessarily your reaction.
No, it's not possible. And the reason it's not possible is because where did you get that from? If you said that you have a source in Oklahoma that told you that, I got that. You don't get that from a damn a visit at the NFL scouting combine. You don't do that. And you certainly don't go on the air sounding all enthusiastic. I got to go because they're getting in my ear telling me I got to go to break so you could call back tomorrow, Bill. But you certainly don't come out acting all enthusiastic in giving this kind of opinion, not even couching it with the possibility that it could be wrong because it's just somebody's opinion. Speaking about it as if it's fact. Talk to anybody that could, even Todd McShay came on and said, damn, that was pretty damn harsh. I mean, give me a break. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's live. Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. If you missed any of today's show, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith Podcast, brought to you by Capital One. Capital One is reimagining banking, offering accounts with no fees or minimums that can be opened in 5 minutes. Capital One, hey, what's in your wallet? Close out the show with your calls in a minute. This show and all of ESPN is streaming live on the ESPN app. Now with ESPN Plus, where you get more ESPN. Download the ESPN app today and take ESPN everywhere.
Need game tickets? Find your seats at Vivid Seats.
Banking, offering accounts with no fees or minimums that can be opened in 5 minutes. Capital One. Hey, what's in your wallet? 888-SAY-ESPN. It's always the number to call. Let me say this to the previous caller, Bill, and I hope he calls back tomorrow when I have more time. White folks in media and beyond insult black athletes all the time. And a lot of times, black athletes deserve it. Just like white athletes deserve it and everybody else. You call it as you see it. That's not what this is about. But when you look at what Kyler Murray has done and what his resume entails, to spew rhetoric based on one day of interviews, ignoring a body of work, and feeding stigmas and stereotypes that has plagued the black quarterback for decades without any sensitivity to that plight and what it entails whatsoever. That's a problem. That is a problem. So, yes, you can be critical, but to be grotesquely and potentially irresponsibly unfair when you've got plenty of time to dissect and analyze and evaluate somebody is wrong. That is the point. Sleep on that. Holla at y'all in 22 hours.